Hello, my YouTube world. It's Johnny Mo coming to you with another video. Making 6 days straight, might as well. Let's get right into this. Got a great question on my last video. Thanks for supporting that last video. You know, just a big passion of mine is to help guys succeed in business. And sometimes you can't see beyond the forest because you're in the forest and you don't realize that just 30 feet above there's a big open field. And I'm telling you, hey, go up to that open field. And I know it's tough when you first get started out. You have to take on some of those every other week stuff. But you really want to eliminate that as quick as possible just because of how hard it is to cut them. And generally, the type of customer that wants it every other week. Now, if it was a sweet old lady who legitimately, honestly, could not afford it. I'm going to give you my Amelia Pilner story. All right, I'm going to give you a story here before I get into that question. Amelia Pilner. She was an every other week account. She beat me up for pricing. I was just getting started, and I let her beat me up. It was legitimately a $35 lawn. I let her talk me down to $25. I was insecure, wanted to work, and, the lawn grew like wildfire. Her husband had planted a garden, and every year where the garden used to be, boom, it would grow up. I can't afford it, Johnny. I can't afford it. You're going to have to do this every other week, and you need to cut it shorter. You need to cut it shorter, Johnny. That's what you need to do. My husband, I'm thinking, I see why your husband worked in the garden all his life. And so Amelia Pilner, she just was rough. Every time I go, was never sure enough, Johnny. 3 days later, it looks like you didn't even cut it, Johnny. Well, I just couldn't get the lawn down. And I struggled, and I struggled. I'd bag. I did everything I could. And then here's the ticket. So she didn't like bills. So she wanted to pay me every time I was there. But she never had it ready, guys. She never. Wait 1 minute, Johnny. Wait 1 minute. Don't you leave. I want to pay you. She'd get her checkbook out and she'd go, all right, how do you want this written out to? I mean, we're 4 weeks into it. I'm like, same as last week, Mrs. Pilner. Okay, Johnny. John J. And the J would be all crooked. It literally took me 15 minutes to get paid, 45 minutes to do the lawn for $25. So I'm there an hour. I'm losing all kinds of money. Crabgrass is growing before I leave, and I can't get this lawn cut. And so one day I tried to use my 36 on his postage stamp to make up some time. She kind of, no, Johnny. No. That doesn't look right. You know better. So one day, this is how I learned this lesson. And this was after the Amelia Pilner is when I realized that some people will take advantage of you. So she told me, she said she couldn't afford it. She couldn't afford it. She couldn't afford it. Can't afford it, Johnny. Well, one day she's writing her check and her checkbook falls on the ground. I pick it up. I look, obviously I didn't mean to look, but it opened up to her thing. She had $14,000 in her checking account. And you might say, you know what? She probably had that because of a bill or something. I come to find out that this was one of the richest ladies where I live. And her husband, when he died, left her a ton of money. And then left her kids a ton of money. And I realized right then that I was being taken advantage of. And ever since then, I always remembered that story. And that was it. That's why Amelia Pilner is why I'm so firm on my $35 minimum. And I'm so firm about doing things the way that I want to do it. Meaning, if you tell me every other week, and this is literally how it is, if you tell me every other week, I'm going to cut it high, and I'm going to side discharge it, and whatever it looks like, whatever comes out on the first cut, and this is the little trick they'll use. Can you give me a bid? Oh, that sounds good. Oh, by the way, every other week. Oh, by the way, you get one cut, whatever it looks like it is. And that's not me trying to be this big macho man or me being ignorant. I realized that Amelia Pilner took advantage of me. She knew what she was doing. Her husband took forever to cut the grass. He'd come home from work. he'd cut it with a little push mower, and he'd be out there all day long. He'd weed eat every little strand. He'd get his little edger out and just edge perfectly. You'll never compete with that, guys, and I don't want you to. I want you to get rid of the Amelia Pilners. She cried the day I left. She's like, you do such a great job. Well, you just said 2 weeks ago that it looked horrible, you know. But realize this. Some people don't have money, and you have to be understanding enough that sometimes you do things for free, or sometimes you take a little bit of a loss because it's who you are. But then there's the Amelia Pilners of the world who just, I think, just took advantage of me, you know. And nice lady, she meant well, and that's just how she was brought up. I don't fault her for it. I fault me for not being a better businessman. And that's why I'm so firm on it. I mean, literally 15 minutes to write a check. How you doing? And I've got 6 other lawns to do before dark. It's 7 o'clock. It's going to get dark at 9. And I'm sitting there for an hour. I made $25. I probably spent more than that just getting there. And the lawn was super hard to cut. She wanted to cut down to 2 inches. The grass was 7 inches. And you're like, how in the world? I mean, you know, there's better mulching mowers now than there was back then. I mean, the Toro recycler was out, but you couldn't mulch down 7 inches. You just had to do the best you could. But having said that, I got a great question on my last video. Mick Hippie asked me this great question, a very thought-provoking question. His question was, how has it changed you since you've been solo? I'm going to answer that question. I thought it was a great question. That's a question of the year. And Mick, I do a lot of videos for Mick, but I do a lot of videos for everybody. But here's something that's really changed, is I'm starting to notice my limitations more. My dollar per hour has become a little bit more important. Like, here's what I mean when I say that. When I say limitations, it started about when I was about 38. When I'm 38, I started to notice, like when I would drag a tarp that was heavy to, like I'd have to drag it from the front lawn all the way to the back lawn. I noticed that when I'm 38, I started to get a little bit more out of breath. Okay, you didn't think of it much more. Now that I'm 41, I notice those things more. I take more breaks now. Also, you know, for you younger guys, save your knees. Don't jump out of the back of trucks. You know, don't kneel on your knees on cement. Use pads, and, you know, step off the truck, because you don't know it now, but when you hit 40 and if you're still blessed enough to be in this business, these knees give out. Your hips hurt, your back. It takes me a little bit longer to recover from a real hard day of work. You know, the next day I'm real sore, like to the point like, man, you know, it comes with age, and I understand that, but at the same time, I've noticed my limitations. My dollar per hour has become a lot more important to me, because when you have employees, you'll take on little jobs and you'll charge dirt cheap pricing. And because you could be making what you need to make, because my mowing route's so tight at this point, I mean, I'm making maximum dollars per hour. It's ridiculous. But what happens is, like, hey, you send your employee over, hey, go pull those weeds real quick. Just throw an extra 20 on the bill. Well, now that I'm pulling the weeds myself and then going back to mowing, that extra 20 is not good enough. The days of $20 weed pulling are gone. You know, you're thinking, hey, my employee's making $12 an hour. If I charge 20, you know, he's there for 30 minutes. Well, now it's me doing it. And then I go back to making, you know, the maximum dollar. So if it takes me a half hour to pull the weeds out of the bed and I just throw an extra 20 on the bill, that means that hourly rate has went down, especially when you're making $70, $75 an hour. That has something that's changed my perspective, because before it just didn't matter, because you're just pumping out so much work mowing and you're go do that. And I realized I wasn't charging much for some of the extra stuff that I did, like gutters. You know, wasn't charging enough for gutters. You know, hey, run up there and do those gutters real quick. Throw an extra 25 on the bill. But when you're mowing something up real quick, and you're on to the next property, and he's sitting there cleaning the gutters, and you're off to the next property, it's easy to forget. Now, here's something else I did this year. I got rid of every unprofitable solo lawn. Like I had one lawn that I picked up at the end of the year last year, and I had, at the time, it was me and another guy mowing, and what happened was I went down the street, I took my zero turn down the street, I stood on the corner of his property because I cut 7 in the area. They're all about the same, but what I failed to do is I failed to go around the back side to see what the back looked like. I just kind of looked at it, hey, $40, you know, everything else in here is about 40, so, you know, we'll have an eighth lawn at $40. Bad move. When I finally cut the lawn the next year, I went to the back. He had a row of bed of trees. He had a little embankment I never saw. He had a shed. He did his own landscaping. You know what that means? That means he put a landscape here, a landscape there. His whole back lawn was a maze. So for $40, it took me literally 50 minutes by myself. I can't do that. Maybe some of you guys can, and I'm not knocking you, and you might make money on that. I can't. I got to make money. And once I got solo, it took me about another month, and I said, you know what? This lawn is very unprofitable. You know, I'm sitting making $78 an hour in Arrestus Development, and I come here, and it drops me all the way down to 40. Now, I was taking profit from the rest to compensate for that, and I wasn't taking a loss. But here's what I did. I said, you know what? I got him another guy. That guy has a 3-man crew. He's in and out of there in 15 to 20 minutes. Works out better that way. Realize that sometimes, you know, a 3-man crew can make money at something and you can't. That would be, if he had 3 more in there, that'd be $160 an hour with a 3-man crew. So some of the stuff I've learned, my limitations, I'm really conscious of the extras that I charge for, like gutters. I raised my gutter prices. I raised my weed pulling prices. I raised up my pruning prices, and I got rid of a lot of work. And those are some of the things I realized that I was undercharging in some areas. I was still making money just because, you know, I was offsetting it by doing this. I was giving out extras basically as a favor. And now if I do it, it's because, you know, it's a conscious decision by me to do it, not because we're so busy, hey, go do that real quick. You know, it's not like that anymore. If I'm going to stop and pull weeds, I'm going to charge you for it. In fact, I'll tell you a story, HOA that I have. I still have I gave away my HOA, both of my HOAs, but I still have a part of the contract that still diverts to me. Like, I'm still the overseer, so if something goes on, they'll call me. And so she called me and said, hey, I need weeds pulled. And I said, okay, I'm going to go pull those weeds for you. So I did, and I sent her a bill. And it was like, whoa, Johnny. And I was like, yes, I know. And she was taken back because before, we was just doing it so dirt cheap. You know, we would cut the condos. We were going after it. Me and my foreman, we'd cut that whole condo, and then me and him would get done, and we'd pull the weeds real quick, and we were flying around like a chicken with our head cut off. And, you know, that's something that's changed. The time limitations, what you can physically do and what you need to get paid to do, has definitely changed in my eye. I've definitely more conscious, especially when it comes to the family. You know, I want to be a part of everything my family does. In my business plan, my plan is, you know, I own my own business. I'm the owner of it. I may be working everything right now, but I try to systematize everything I can, book work, everything, so it makes it quicker. Because when I come home, I want to put locks on the trailer, shut the garage door, and I want to come in, I want to take the Johnny's Mowing shirt off, and I want to put my shorts on, and I want to be a dad. I want to play in the backyard with my kids. I want to be a coach. I'm not just a business owner. And honestly, guys, this is the part, get this last part. This is the part you really need to get, and that is this. When it's all said and done, you're not going to worry about the Amelia Pilners. You're not going to worry about, did you do a $20 weed job? You're going to want to know, was I a good person? Did I live right? Did I spend enough time with my family? Finances comes into play with this. But at the same time, you really have to take a good hard look. Why are you in business? I assure you this. If you're in business just to work and work and work and work, you're going to be a miserable person by the time you get time to retire or you're done with this business. You're going to be miserable. You're going to feel like you wasted your life. That's what I've learned. Great question, Mick Hippie. Way to go, guys!